An old Latin saying, docendo discimus, means, by teaching we learn. I know that as a teacher, I have found that the more I teach math skills, or history lessons, or even how to write well, the better I personally become at that skill. What about you? Have you ever found that after teaching a lesson on adding fractions, you find it easier to combine measurements when cooking? But when do our students get the time to learn by teaching? How do they teach their peers about the lessons that they have learned in math, science, or social studies? While some teachers employ the familiar explain it to your neighbor method, this can result in off topic conversations, loud classrooms, and wasted time trying to quiet everyone down. Is there a way that students can teach others about the skills they have learned without causing chaos in the classroom? Absolutely. One of those ways is through the use of the web application comiclife. comiclife allows students to use digital photographs of themselves, their friends and family, even their pets and belongings in a comic strip. But how does a comic strip help students learn the skills that are required in the classroom? Students can teach one another the skills that they are learning by creating comic strips. They can use digital photos that they take in your classroom to create educational comics. Once they have the images they need, they can write dialogue to explain the different concepts to each other within the comic. Students can use one of the many different templates that are available through this web application to explain different concepts in science, mathematics, or history. In this example, a student used a single-panel comic template to explain the definition of congruence. He was able to show two items that were congruent in the photograph and then state what the definition is on the comic. After learning and explaining the definition through the single-panel comic, he was then able to partner with a peer and use a comic strip to teach his classmate about congruency, using examples from the real world. By teaching his classmate through a comic strip, this student has not only written out the concept, but he has verbally explained it to his peer as they planned the comic strip, and he has used photographs to show real-world examples. It is safe to assume that most students would have a solid grasp on this concept after focusing so much. comiclife can be used in other ways too. If you were teaching a history lesson and wanted students to explain the signing of the Declaration of Independence, you could help them create a comic strip to show why it was important. Students could take photos of themselves acting out this historical moment, then use the word balloons and thought bubbles, as well as text boxes, to explain what had happened that day. Students could also create comics to reinforce their learning of a skill and teach each other how to do math problems or about the scientific method. By having the students select photos and then add in the dialogue, students will increase their understanding of that topic as they have fun. But can students use comiclife in more ways than just teaching others what they've learned in math, science, or social studies? Can it be used for digital storytelling? Of course. As you know, narratives are a requirement of the Kentucky Common Core. By using comiclife, students can tackle some of those different aspects of narratives that can seem so daunting, especially the pre-writing and the requirement of including dialogue. Students can use this application to develop their thoughts and organize their narratives quickly, then modify and adapt it as they go along, adding in more details and even including traditional writing as they work their way through the writing process. Additionally, by using word or thought balloons or bubbles, students can write dialogue that is natural and engaging without the added stress of trying to fit it into a paper that is traditionally written. Students can also have some fun with this as they develop digital stories. With a variety of fonts and visual effects, they are limited only by their imaginations as they create different moods and atmospheres in their panels. But what about revising and editing? That's also required by the Kentucky Common Core. Studies show that students who engaged in comic writing using a web application also went beyond the traditional revision process by not only revisiting their written text, but also bringing their stories alive by utilizing many design choices on the website. Furthermore, by saving the comics as images or PDFs and uploading them to a class blog or school website, students will meet the Kentucky Common Core standards for publishing a piece of writing, as well as the AASL standard for sharing knowledge and participating ethically and productively as members of our democratic society. But how would you score something like this? By using the same type of rubric that you would use for a narrative, You can score the students' writing skills and offer suggestions as they move from the pre-writing and organizational stages into actually writing their narratives. If you think that using comics to allow students to engage in writing, as well as to let them learn other skills by teaching their peers in comic form, is something that you would like to do in your classroom, please peruse the user guide for Comic Life. Feel free to contact me at this email address if you have any questions. Thank you.